All right, thank you very much, everybody. Hello, everyone. I am Oakwalker, and this is my best friend, Stronghorse Caldwell, and we are Earth Medicine for the Soul. We are a podcast discussing things that are spiritual and discussing things that are spiritual as well.
I was like, where are you going with that?
Right. There's, there's one of those ad libs I was just mentioning.
That's right. That's right. Okay, I'm ready to go.
Yeah. So today we thought we'd start off with a kind of it's a very, very timely topic, which is about spiritual morality and how that sort of gets, well, let's just go through it. What do you want to start with? Do you have anything in particular you want to lead off with?
Yeah, I do. I was thinking about it this morning. I think that there were a couple of instances that keyed me into this. And this is obviously a very broad topic, but I think
Yeah.
it's an intense and a very important topic because by the fact that the more and more this shift continues to transition and more spirit awareness starts seeping in and people become more and more curious and aligned with this whole new energy that we're going to be dealing with.
Yeah.
um, your integrity and spiritual morality are going to be hugely important. And,
Hmm.
I want to talk a little bit about how people can discern, what who's operating on the right, on a good frequency and who isn't. And
Hmm.
because I think that's going to be vitally important when people start looking for teachers to say, hey, what, clue me in, man, what's going on here? So there were two instances. One came up, and then this is probably couple of months ago or something, and this woman was on Facebook and she was like, okay, this is an urgent message. Says, I've been talking to the Archangel Michael, and he tells me that the California is getting ready to fall into the ocean. And if you have any friends out there, this is really important. You need to call and tell them to pack a suitcase and get out now. I thought, yeah, I know you got kids over there, I was like, damn. And so, I thought, I don't know about this, but maybe if it did happen, I didn't alert you, I think, God, that was really bad. So, so, and the other thing was, I had this guy on Facebook also, and he was talking about how fifth dimension is going to become more prevalent. And he says, in fifth dimension, he says, your any thoughts you have will automatically create manifestation. And I was like, well, yeah, kind of that's probably
That's the way
true.
it
And then
works.
he goes, like you can be walking down the sidewalk, and if you think, what would happen if a plane crashed right in front of me? And that can happen. Oh my God. Yeah, you know, and this, so I thought, well, Oakwalker and I need to talk about this a little bit because, you know, that's not going to be happening. So then I came up and then I started thinking, well, what can I say that could kind of counter that? One of my favorite quotes, I think, from the elders, and I don't remember when this happened or what we were talking about, but they said, look, do you actually believe that after all the work that we've done on this planet, that we're going to let you destroy it?
I have
And
a
I
story
thought,
about
hmm,
that.
yeah, I thought, well, that's okay. That makes a lot of sense. It was kind of like putting us in our place, like, back off with all the negativity, man. And so, so spiritual morality, morality in the context that we look at it today is really more of a religious term. And I think they've weaponized morality to try to uh, get a hold of their followers or,
Hmm.
get their
Yeah.
teachings out there, whatever. If you got to be a moral person or you're just not going to get into heaven. I mean, and it's just or whatever the shtick is. It's all around. It seems to be around morality. And
Yep.
original sin and yada yada yada.
Yep.
So spiritual morality is sort of a it sounds like an oxymoron, but it isn't. Because from my experience, when you become a spiritual person, morality is just a given. I mean, it's like breathing, your morality is like your mainstay, because I think the thing that I've always looked at in terms of people as to whether or not I consider them to be qualified teachers or actually tapped in and really, you know, talking truth instead of talking about
Yes.
themselves is is integrity. I mean, I just think that's
Yep.
always been the number one, the highest thing. If they got integrity, which is you could check that out pretty quick on somebody,
Yes.
and and so there are other factors that you have to look at in terms of when you're trying to figure out if somebody's on the level or not. But the thing I've noticed is that the people who are anxious to promote themselves are the
Uh-huh.
ones who haven't really done the work. And I gave you an example one time. I had an apprentice and he kept bothering me and bugging me to let him run a sweat lodge. And I kept telling him, "You're not ready, man. That you got to do a lot more training." "No, no, I know. I'm telling you I could do it." And I was like, "No, I'm telling you, you're not ready." I knew he wasn't.
Uh-huh.
And just kept working on me. And finally, I was like, "All right, I'll let you run a sweat." So I let him run a sweat, and he just fried the people in the sweat lodge. I mean, fried them. And I just thought, God, you got to listen to yourself, Horse. I mean,
Uh-huh.
you knew that was a mistake,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I've run into this with traditionalists. They get into the lodge of them and they're, boy, well, I'm going to prove how powerful I am. And so they just keep pouring water, keeps getting hotter and hotter,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and so then that led me, I'm going to turn it over to you here in a minute, but let me make one more point.
No, you go.
The thing that, it's the thing that I realize all the ceremonies that you and I have done, all the work that we've done, all the study and all the work on ourselves and everything have really been preparing us for one specific type of choreography. And I'm going to use a football analogy here, amazingly. If you listen to quarterbacks who are really good at what they do, every one of them will say, "I learned how to let the game come to me."
Hmm.
I figured out how to let that happen, how to let it come to me instead of me trying to make it happen.
Yeah.
And all of the medicine work, everything you and I've done has been specifically to set us up for that absolute particular moment, to be able to let the game come to you and be receptive to it and know what's going on in that moment and what to do in terms of catching minimal chance in that moment.
Hmm.
And I think that encapsulates morality on a spiritual level. Okay, I'll shut up now.
Boy, there's a whole lot of stuff in there. See my little pencil?
Yeah.
Because I take notes on, and as you're going through your introductions or sometimes in the middle of all this, I'm over here going, yep, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about that. So I've got about 4 bullet points here. And I don't know that we need to hit them all right away, but I love the way you ended with that because it really gets it's exactly what I was telling you about before we started on this thing, and I'm not ready to go there yet. But okay, because the whole thing and all the little bullet points I have, they always come back to the same reality, which is that nothing happens anytime but now. There's always only the now. right? And we
Right.
can do all of this stuff about manifestation, and we can do all of this stuff about how to work the alchemy, and we can become these, powerful sweat pourers that just want to really be the self-promoters that they're doing it. So much of it's performative, and they want to just really prove themselves. There's a lot of people out there proving themselves, and a lot of these people have sincerity and a high level of integrity, but they're just still trapped in those little ego traps that get us all of us,
Right.
get wrapped up in this stuff every once in a while. And before you know it, you're involved in some kind of a bullshit projection. And I oh, so no, we're not ready for that part yet. God, I'm having a hard time. Okay, so we have to hit on integrity at that point, right? Because the integrity of being able to bring the game to you, as you said, re, uh, resides in being able to think on your feet and and deal with things as they arise, right? So without the integrity of staying true to yourself, going back to the authentic, um, of your practice and your walk upon the planet, right? Um, Without that integrity, then that's when people tend to fall back onto the problem with morals. And the problem with morals and they started guiding me on this really early in my journey, right? My shamanic journey, because I raised as I was in two different Christian traditions that were very moralistic, the Methodists and the Southern Baptists, right? I've been baptized into each one of those denominational, things, and they were all very, very moralistic. And the difference between spirituality and religion, I was told back at that time, is that morals are things that get written down in books and you have to follow them, like the Ten Commandments, which weren't even actually commandments, but now they are. And and morality then becomes this rote practice of legalism, right? So now you're in this performative um, parade or tirade of I'm doing everything right because I'm following all of the moral code, when sometimes the moral code isn't sufficient for what's happening right now in your life, and whether or not you're going to have compassion for a person, whether or not you're going to be able to adjust your behavior and move in an ethical way. So then it becomes the question of morals versus ethics. And ethics require absolute integrity with the best of you that you can understand yourself to be. And morality can be something, and often is nowadays, as you started off, this empty, devoid of meaning, rules based, you know, plodding along without any real growth happening to you, because all you're doing is repeating the rules, and you're not really engaging anymore in your own growth and your own self growing process, your own process of being alive and growing up. Um, and
Let me,
this
can
is,
I jump in here for a
yeah,
second?
please
Okay.
do.
So every time you bring up the word performative, man, I go right out. Oh, yeah, man, let's go there. Um, the thing I realized, I was sitting there this morning. Actually, something happened in my business recently, um, and this person I was talking to was telling me that blah 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 blah, and I knew for a fact that they were wrong. I knew, and he was absolutely convinced that he was right, and I knew for a fact he was wrong. And so I was confronted with saying, well, you're you're an idiot. I mean, you don't know what you're talking about. You need to
Mm,
check your facts out.
yeah,
And then so I started thinking about that, and I started realizing that we've really reached a point where the lie has surpassed the truth and in the importance of to people. And the
yeah,
reason is this survival adaptability mode in a capitalistic society. I mean, and the more that the system you're involved in is collapsing, the more the lie becomes more important,
that's
because
true.
you're struggling to try to keep up, so now and internally you have a conflict of going between um, the morality that is necessary. I mean, everybody knows that as an angelic spiritual being, they know what morality is and how important it is and how important the truth is. But they're confronted with a society that says we really don't give a shit about that. You know,
Yeah,
if what we care about is your performative states. Show me how good you are, and do whatever and say whatever you got to do to impress me and impress the other people that I need you to impress, so we all get paid. And that's really kind of what it boils down to in a nutshell. And so, if you're somebody who's walking around with a high level of integrity and spiritual morality, and you know how important that is for your soul, and you're walking out into the world, and people are like, you know, well, I think the world's flat. you know,
I've met some of
you're
those.
like, damn, you're like, damn,
Right?
you
Where
know,
have you
and
been?
and, and they get. I mean, you asked. I was telling you about that group of Trump supporters that I was joining for a while for coffee in the mornings, and
Hmm.
and what do they like? And I said, well, they're God, they're just thirsty for attention. They're thirsty for value, and the only thing that they've got is, for some reason, however this thing, I don't know how this is, how, why, but I think probably the reason that we've evolved to this place is that we've let go of the importance of spiritual morality. And now they're in a place where they get caught up in this world that's based on lies, and there's no value in that.
Right.
There's there's no value for you in that. And so they're struggling to create value for themselves. And the only way they know to do is to lie and try to sell it to you and pray that somehow you're going to buy into it with them. And
Right.
if you buy into it, then they feel like, oh, okay, I'm
Yep.
good.
Yeah. And you're part of the
you
club,
know?
right?
Yeah.
That's
And
what
if
it
you're
takes.
if you're not a part of that club and you're sitting there thinking, holy shit, oh
So
my God.
and this is where all of this is really going because we're in the middle of this big shift. Now, what kind of shift is it? It's a shift of consciousness, right? And the shift of
Right,
consciousness is going to affect eventually the shift of the the reality, the consensual reality that we're all in, right?
right.
So, how is that going to happen? Well, these lies have all been employed all of this time to build up this narrative of what our reality is. And people believe that our reality is that God made business so that the good people can get rich. The reality is in these people's minds that we're here to use up the planet and we better hurry up before Jesus gets here, or he's going to be pissed if there's still some of it left. The reality is that empathy is a weakness, right? And we're living in this narrative that has to come crashing down. And that's exactly what's happening because it's gone out.
Absolutely.
So it's gone out. They've gone too far. The balloon
Absolutely.
has popped, right? And now we're watching the shreds of these rubber latex bits flying out all over the universe, and people are trying to grab onto these things because that's the only meaning they ever had in their life. And but it's
Right. Right.
gone, right? We're not going to
Right.
get
Right.
Greenland, okay? That ain't,
That's right. You're
you
right.
know, and And if that does happen, then everything that they said would happen if we got Greenland, the exact opposite's going to happen. All right. So, I mean, it's just so broken because they can't sustain the bullshit any longer, right? And there's never been any meaning in it. And it's because it's been divorced from the integrity of spiritual morality for a long, long time. Since the Roman times,
Exactly.
since the Crusade times, since for a
Right.
long time, right? Long enough that we can't imagine anything else.
Exactly.
That's what's
No,
going
it's
to have to
exact. No,
shift.
absolutely, absolutely, 100%, 1,000%. And I think, so that's why this topic's so important. People are, I mean, I remember hearing one time this guy was on some talk radio or something, and he was talking about, he was a Trump supporter, and he just didn't believe it anymore, or he was so disappointed, and the guy was crying. He's like, "What am I going to do? What am I going to do?" And I thought, wow, man, what's he freaking out about? I mean,
Mhm.
that's really strange. And it's hard to put yourself in their place because it's hard for us to do that because we have moved on from, I mean, there were a time in my life when I would have probably been there right with them, but we've moved on from
Yeah,
that and we moved into, like, what I used the term the other day, like, you and I have a worksheet, and it's basically how do we live up to our spiritual morality?
yeah,
We're important. What's important to us is we want the soul to be healthy. We want
yes,
our soul to grow and be healthy and be enlightened. And, if we can help others along the way, great. That's just great.
uh-huh.
But the truth of
Adds
the
to the
matter is,
process.
yeah, it adds to the process. But the process for us is our own individual
Hmm.
trip. I mean,
Consciousness.
that's why I'm not, you and I have been friends now for several years, and neither one of us have
Over 10.
taken any, yeah, neither one of us have taken any time to try to convince the other, like, no, you're doing it wrong. Here's how you do it,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, I'll
But
figure that out on my own, thank you.
we follow a completely different paths. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it would be insulting to even attempt to think or try to do that, And so
Yeah.
my point here is this: people have to define morality for themselves.
Uh-huh.
And I think that includes what I call the mistakes wheel.
Yeah.
If you went back and look at my resume, morality wasn't really huge.
Especially in the early
But
days.
that was yeah, that wasn't a big part of the performance.
And
So, the resume just doesn't work. But the more I got into the path and I started realizing, wow, this is a whole different deal, man. This is a
yeah,
whole different deal. And,
yeah,
and I like it better. I mean, I like being part of something bigger than that I think I am
yeah,
than I do trying to prove how big I am to other people.
right. Who don't give a shit anyway. Um,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
which gets me back to my final bullet point, and that is back to integrity, because you can't have that integrity of spiritual morality if you're not willing to go back and go to what are the roots of your spiritual morality? What ideas we all created equal? Did God create you and me, or did God just create me and you just sort of were some kind of like freak accident? Right? I mean, so we have to decide these things. We have to figure this out for ourselves. Is it all my relatives? Are you all my relatives? Are the horses and the plants all my relatives or not? Right? And when you start bringing your spiritual integrity up from those roots of your idealism that include um, the creator in there. And that's why I'm an animist, because the creator's best expression of of itself comes through nature, right? And so if it wouldn't resonate with a bear, then I'm probably not interested.
Yeah, and I think that's a level of integrity that holds water.
Yeah, me too. Because
I
it
mean, as
always goes
weird as
back
that
to
sounds, I
something,
mean,
yeah, it goes back to something meaningful and solid. And like it says in the Course in Miracles, nothing real can be threatened, and anything unreal doesn't exist.
yeah, well, that's exactly the word I was getting ready to use to describe it. It's like it's real integrity. That's
Yeah,
real integrity, and and people, or like I say, if I get, you don't get in these conversations. I don't get in these conversations from many people, but if I'm
not
telling them,
much.
yeah, I talk to trees and they talk back to me, I mean, that's real integrity, man.
Yeah,
Real integrity,
yeah,
what I'm doing, and I know what I'm doing is real and it's happening. And um, there have been results and repercussions from that were measurable. It
yeah.
wasn't like I was just making it up and then convincing myself, yeah, it really happened. No, this these were measurable. Treaty Oak being one.
Yeah, yeah.
You know the I did a healing on Treaty Oak, and John Dromgoole told me there was
Uh-huh.
no way that tree should have survived. The amount of poison that guy poured on it, he said there is no
Yeah.
way, and it did.
Yeah.
And I feel confident the ceremony I did on that helped it tremendously.
Helped it.
But if I talk to people about that, they're like, get the
Yeah,
eye roll. Oh, it's nice.
right.
You're
He's tooting
special.
his own horn.
Yeah, but for me, for me that's experiencing real integrity,
Uh-huh.
and so it's important to me,
Yeah.
that's as far as it
And
needs
the
to go,
treaty
really.
yoke.
Yeah, and to Treaty Oak, yeah, and which is fun. Like when I show up there, it's like, hey, what's up? What you been doing?
Glad we can have this conversation.
Right, right.
Well, that's 38 minutes on my clock, and we had about 5 minutes before we started this, but that's still up above our 30-minute uh, time limit because we try to keep these within a certain scope. But I think we can hit on everything by having a part two of this and just keep going with it. And all the things I wanted to talk about, we can probably squeeze in one more episode. Why don't we say goodbye for now and come back and hit this again? And
Sounds good.
I will see you soon, and I'll get this thing resolving itself down into another recording. I would like to tell our audience, thank you so much. I am so grateful and surprised that you stick with us the way you do and that you're listening to this episode because I think that this is I think they keep getting better. So thank you, everyone. And we are Earth Medicine for the Soul. You can visit us at earth-ems.org and find out everything that we're doing fully and completely from that hub. Thank you, and I'm going to sign off now.